As someone who makes a lot of content about Canadian military history, particularly relating to the World Wars, I hear a lot of nonsense comments about Juno Beach, particularly the amount of defenses and what it took to take said beach. In this video, I'm going to be showing just some of the very many concrete defenses that were put in place by the Germans on what would become known as Juno Beach. In this video, we'll focus only on the concrete defenses and other positions that were set up by the Germans around what is today the Juno Beach Center. This is just a small snippet of what the Canadians who landed there on June 6, 1944 had to face. This area was called Strong Point Corps Soles by the Germans. It was one of the strongest points of the so-called Atlantic Wall that the Allies faced on D-Day, full of many, many bunkers. Again, those are profiled elsewhere, so go check out those videos to hear those stories. So this is just what remains today, but there is still a strong amount of concrete defenses in and around the Juno Beach Center. Here we are looking at the R666 Bunker, which at the time of the landings had a cupola on the dome. It was removed for scrap metal at some point after the war. The part where the dome was removed was the observation post. It allowed them to see in different directions and keep an eye on things moving along the beach. The position marked by the arrow is the escape hatch for the observation bunker. It would have been filled with loose gravel and maybe some sand on top so they could dig their way out if necessary. It would have been covered over as best as possible to hide the position so it couldn't be used to gain access to the bunker. It's quite an interesting piece to see, and you get a better look at it during the tour led by the Juno Beach Center that I mentioned several times throughout this video, so be sure to sign up for one of those if you've never been before. This piece of footage, which was taken on a different day as I had some pretty bad weather at my first visit, so I couldn't get the best footage, shows the escape hatch here in a little bit closer detail, along with a different angle of the cupola. And this is heading towards the beach. Of course, this would have been closer to the beach on the day. The dunes have continued to move forward to the channel and not away like they are in other places along the coast. The arrow is pointing at the Brook position of the bunker. This would have been used to defend the bunker with machine guns. Not necessarily an MG42, it might have been MG34, but that allowed the position to cover the beach, again, much closer on the day. Also to defend it from the rear if necessary, as many of these positions were flanked before they were finally taken. So here's another entrance to one of the bunkers. Again, you need a guide to get in there. Looks like they've got the lights on and everything. This one was to house some troops because you can see the little light down there. That's one of the cots that folded up against the wall because I've been in there before. So yeah, another cool thing that doesn't look like it fooled too many people. Right, you think these are the ventilation shafts or whatever. Those are in a different spot. You know, heat of battle, and you go, grenade out! Oh no! Now I'm dead. You know, it doesn't look like there's much damage down here from one of those, so that's a good thing. So this is one of the command bunkers back here, or the command bunker. So these ones you need a guide to get in and go see. So the center's just right there. Get one of the tours, and they'll take you through and explain it all. Fortunately, I just didn't have time to do a whole tour this trip. Again, this has been a bit of a whirlwind. This is the last day, so trying to cover as much as possible, and it's a lot. So this board explains all of the different bunkers for the defenses, and they're all interconnected, and this would have been covered by trenches and barbed wire and all that nasty business when you're trying to take this place. So this gives you a good explanation as to how it's all laid out. So there's the layout of the complex. You'll get a better understanding of the stuff with the guided tour, but it's all right around in here. So here's another defense on the beach. You can see in this one too, but not much to see. Entrance to Brook position. Let's see if I can put my way in here. Yeah. To Brook position up here. Yeah, so this is another little strong point here at course holes. This is some of the concrete anti-tank obstacles that the Germans put in place. They worked rather effectively in course holes and at Bernay-sur-Mer, as the Canadians were able to get on the beach and establish themselves, but it still took a long time to clear many of those bunkers that I profiled in this video and others as well, which I've linked down below. But once those were cleared, there was still the issue of getting through the towns themselves, as the Germans used a fair number of these anti-tank obstacles to slowly advance, which is why it took so long to get out of course holes and to continue the advance inland, and why not all objectives were met that day. And here you can see a 25-pounder. I went before the 80th commemorations of D-Day, and they were preparing everything. That's why the 25-pounder looks a little different with all the different spots on it as they were fixing it up and getting it ready for the commemorations that were going to take place after I had left. So there you can also see the Juno Beach Center itself behind there, and the memorial bricks and the area that they're working on to continue to expand Juno Park. Also there in front of the Canadian flag is a 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft gun. Many of those were placed along the beach to defend it against German aircraft after the Allies had established themselves on the beaches.